Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Hello, everybody. This is This Week in WordPress. It's episode number 388. Bud's having a fun time there with his camera. That's excellent. Those of you who are listening won't appreciate it. His camera was sort of wobbling all over the place. It's 2 p.m. in the UK time. I don't know exactly what that means, for example, if you're in Australia or the US, different time zones, but thank you for anybody who has actually joined us. I really appreciate it. Both Tim and I are in the UK, where it is unseasonably hot. It's kind of like eye-wateringly hot, but it's not that hot.
It's also
hot.
Yeah, it's very UK.
It's also in the UK summer.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not even unseasonably hot.
Yeah, well, okay, I take that. Is it summer though? Is it? I'm always confused by when summer actually kicks in and spring is left behind us. Nevertheless, it's very hot. I've got a fan on. Tim's got his window open. I think Michelle's got some fans going on as well. So if there's a load of background
I've got my central air on.
Okay. If there's a load of background noise, I apologize, but we're going with it because we're going to melt otherwise. It's very, very nice to have you, the audience, with us. If you wouldn't mind sharing a URL with your social networks, that would be great, because we love it when comments come in. And probably the best one to share, I do it each week, so if you're familiar with this show, it's nothing new, but there it is. Tim is sporting it for us. It's wpbuilds.com/live. Once more, wpbuilds.com/live. If you go there, then hopefully the video will be embedded and playing and all of that. It's an embed from the video platform that we use, and as such, it's got a little comment box in the top right hand corner. So if you don't want to log into the YouTube comments, which are on the right on a desktop, then just feel free to hit that button and you can give us some comments, and they should drop into the chat here and we can display them. However, this show would not be happening were it not for the guests that we've got. But first of all, there's our co-host over there, Michelle Frechette. Hello.
Hello.
How's life going?
I've got my voice back, which is good. I attended a WordCamp this weekend, and if you've ever met me, you know that I usually don't have a voice right after a WordCamp.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a minute, actually, because we've got Bod here, and I think the pair of you had a right old chin wag. So let's just do the quick bios from everybody first. So first up, Michelle Frechette, as we just said. Michelle is the executive director at Post Status, and in addition to the Post Status work, Michelle is the podcast barista at WP Coffee Talk, co-founder of Underrepresented in Tech, creator of WP Speakers and WP Career Pages, author and a frequent organizer and speaker at WordPress events. She lives outside of Rochester, New York, where she likes to take nature photographs. And you can learn more about Michelle at the one URL, meetmichelle.online. Meetmichelle.online. Thank you for joining us.
I need to add a few things. Yes, you're welcome. We have now over 115 people in the sponsormewp.com site, and I've neglected to add that to my bio.
So for next time. We mentioned it last week, didn't we? This new initiative with Marcus Burnett to assist people get sponsored in their WordPress endeavors. That's really nice. Yeah. We'll definitely try to squeeze that in for next time. Also down there is Tim Nash. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
Tim normally joins us with some kind of like song or dance that I've got to do. And I haven't. I have read it actually, and there isn't sufficient do Mike included. In all honesty,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, it's fine. I'll read Tim's out.
Well, before you do that, there is an awful lot of bleating behind me, and I'm very conscious that all I can hear is bleating of sheep and alpacas.
Can Bod or Michelle hear a single? I can't hear anything.
Sadly, no. I really wish I could.
Yeah, I want to hear. Yeah. Oh, never mind. No, however profoundly loud it is for you, we're not hearing it. Okay.
Okay. Carry on.
Very good. We should do sheep impressions. Okay, here's Tim's bio, written by him this week. Every few weeks, Tim comes on WP Builds and tries to do something funny or witty for a bio. Over the years, he has made Nathan sing, read poetry, though we skipped the... Were you meaning to write Vogue on there by any chance?
Yes.
You wrote, the Vogue on poetry last time in the name of entertainment. It's from Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So this week, he thought, let's be serious for a minute. The world can often feel really dark and quite short word beginning with S. It's got 4 letters and it doesn't mean good. So instead of visiting his site or buying his course, he hopes you will instead reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while and say, hi, brighten up your and their day. What a lovely sentiment. So off you go, clear off, everybody, just disappear. Yeah, go and say hi to somebody, then come back right away. That's lovely. Thank you so much for joining us, Tim. It was really nice. Tim and I managed to we sat next to each other and both had a soft drink the other day in London, because it was the WPLDN, the meetup that we do for the WordPress community in London, and we were lucky enough to spend a bit of time together. Thank you. That was great.
Well, Bud and I had a hug on Saturday. So
yeah, well, okay. Tim and I did an arm wrestle. Beat that, yeah. We actually didn't. But I learned a lot about Tim. I'm not going to divulge it, but let's just say Tim has had a life very different to what I would have imagined, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It was really expansive.
You made that sound terrifying.
Okay, it really
we almost accessed the dark web to find Tim's background.
No, Tim's got a whole background which has got nothing to do with the internet, really, and it was fascinating. So one day, if you corner in a room, you can get that out of him. But it was really interesting. I was genuinely quite amazed by that.
I think you need to have him on the jukebox to tell us his.
That's right. History. Yeah. I will divulge nothing, but it's very interesting. What a life you have had is all I can say. And the last one joining us today is Bud. Bud over there. Bud joined us late, and he was having terrible gremlins with his headphones and audio and video and what have you. But hopefully we're all sorted. Is everything a-okay now? No,
I'm just kidding.
That was good.
I got you.
Totally.
I'm like, I'm not buying it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. No, hey, hello everybody, and especially Tim, because I don't think we've never met. We don't know each other, right?
No, we've stalked each other online, but yeah, no.
Okay.
This is probably the first time we've.
It's not like I've never seen your name before, but I know we don't know you. I mean, I know I don't know you, so.
Can I just say that stalking people online is not part of Tim's past? Just so that you know, that is not. That's not what I was talking about. Yeah. I have what is a very long bio for Bod, so I'm going to sort of truncate it a little bit, if that's all right. But you put a long bio, and it may take too long, so I'm just going to I'm just going to truncate it a little bit. Bud Kraus has been working with WordPress as an inline and as an in-class and online instructor since a site developer and content creator for 15 years. He's been hanging around in the WordPress community even before his first talk at WordCamp New York in 2017.
This is long.
Yeah, it is. And Bud hosts the Seriously Bod podcast, where he has a weekly unexpected conversation with someone in the WordPress community, and you can find that at seriously.bod.com.
Well, you have to put a question mark in there. Seriously,
Bud?
Yeah, you can't have a question mark in a top level domain. Maybe you can. I don't know. It sort of feels like that.
You can't.
No, you really can't. I can see all sorts of reasons why that wouldn't work. But there's our panel. Thank you very much to the three of you for joining us. Let's see if anybody's hopped into the chat. Oh, it would seem they have. So Ryan, Influence WP, is joining us from sunny Charlotte. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Paul Halfpenny in the
he doesn't have the AC on. It's hotter than it is in the UK, and he's like, "What are they complaining about?"
What the heck? Yeah, Paul Halfpenny from Letchworth. It says in Letchworth Garden City in the UK. Says, "Good afternoon from what feels like the centre of the sun's core." We're such a honestly, we moan about the cold in the winter, the heat in the summer, the lack of a good summer. We love the weather in the UK. Thank you very much, Paul. That's brilliant. Tim Nash is obviously joining us. There's a couple of comments there, and Michelle. Tammy Lister, hello. Welcome to the. You see, she's another UK person. Straight in on the weather. Welcome to the hottest day of the year. I have an ice lolly. Oh, that's nice. That's lovely.
Guys, how hot is it?
A crazy hot.
It's like 20 degrees. So that's
it's really.
It's like 78 degrees.
Honestly, the thing is, we're just not set up for stuff like extreme cold. We're not set up for. So our systems all collapse when it snows. Even like a single snowflake falls, the entire rail network goes away. And in the summer when it gets slightly above, the normal level of comfortable, we all moan because nobody has air conditioning units because it's just not typically worth the investment.
You know that your country is older than ours, right? So like you should have had this infrastructure a long time ago.
We should have done, but we just don't have the climate to justify the aircon units. Right. Okay. So Michelle's an ice lolly. You call them popsicles. So it's basically like watery, you just like a
frozen fruit juice.
Well, hang on,
exactly that. Yeah, that's well
what
done.
do you call a popsicle then? Because a
Oh.
popsicle here is like a sweet that you pop up, but it's like it's like
Those are
crystallized.
called push pops.
Push pops. Okay, I'm so glad we're covering all the important stuff at the beginning. It's great, isn't it? I love this. I love all this. This is the best bit of the show. Tammy's come back with also UK heat is different because of humidity and no aircon. Yes, Tammy, preach it. The humidity here is brutal. That's all we can say. James Lau is joining us. Hello, good morning, he says. I see that Tim has deployed the UK AC, but yeah, this is it. He's opened the window and he's afraid that the sheep are out there making a lot of noise. Good afternoon, says Elliot Sowersby. Good afternoon, Elliot. Very nice. Elliot, could I ask you to check your direct messages on Blue Sky, please? Because I've sent you a message about 2 weeks ago, and I haven't had a reply yet. And you probably never log into Blue Sky.
Literally walk down the street and knock on his door.
Yeah, I really could.
But you waited weeks for him to respond in Blue Sky.
It just occurred to me. I just saw his name and I thought, oh yeah, there's that thing that I wrote. Tim's back. It's pretty in effect. Oh, okay, it's a breeze. Right, we've got the whole thing about Windows and things like that. Where can we go now? Michelle from James Lau gave a very moving talk this past weekend. Tears accepted.
I cried for the first time ever. I cried in my own talk.
Oh, God. You can tell us about that in a minute.
Happy tears.
I promise we will get to that. Jackson, who was also at the WPLDN meetup, he says, ciao from a very sunny Brighton. I'm sure it is over there. Steve Burge has fallen foul of this platform's inability to show emojis. Hand pink waving. We can imagine what that is. From rainy Florida. Aha! For the one day of the year where we eclipse your weather. 77 degrees in Boston. I think we've got it. Okay, here we go. Last one. You guys are getting our recent heat wave from last week. Boston hit 102 Fahrenheit. Oh, yeah, that is a lot. 30.
We hit 100 here as well.
Can I just say that's the most precise. That's the most precise
38.89.
38.89. That's very.
I think that's more to do with the fact that Boston hit 102.
Oh, okay.
Not that he was sitting there going 38.89.
Yeah,
oh, 30 into Fahrenheit. Oh, look, it's 102. That's a really easy number to know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe it does map on some conversion system. That's actually what it is. And then brilliant. You see, my prayers are answered. Elliot Southby, I'll have a look. I've not been on Blue Sky for a while.
Elliot, don't answer him on Blue Sky. Walk down the street, knock on his door, and go, what did you want?
It's like a good 30-minute drive, which in the UK is halfway across the country. Right, we really should get to some stuff. So let's do that very, very quickly. We've spent nearly 20 minutes doing that. So first thing to say, this is our website, wpbuilds.com. If you like what we do and you'd like to be informed when we have pushed out an episode, just put your email address in here. And we'll send you 2 emails a week, typically. One when this show, basically, we're recording this show now and it gets pushed out as an audio podcast tomorrow morning. And as we've got to record it with the 4 of us, I thought many years ago, why not just do it live at the same time? Because it's much nicer that way. So that's what we're doing it for. So you'll get an email about that. But then also I'll send you an email about the Thursday podcast, which we do on a weekly basis. Every Thursday we drop an episode. And this is what the archive for that looks like. You can see that in the more recent past, I've talked to Brad Williams about Theme Switcher Pro, talked to Bob Don about, Do the Woo and Open Channels and his podcasting journey. And then this last week, this is really worth looking at, actually. I commend this to you. Very good. It's called Independent Analytics, and it's a WordPress plugin, which is kind of a bit of a direct swap out for Google Analytics, only it stores all the bits and pieces in your WordPress database. So you'd be the owner of that data with all of the caveats that go with that. But I installed it and had a play. It's really credible. There's an awful lot of stuff in there. They've been in the market for ages, but they haven't been shouting about themselves. And so this was the first bit of kind of podcasty media content that they've done. And if you like the look of it, then they've actually, out the blue, gave me a coupon code the other day. You can get 10% off if you like the look of it with this code here. You imagine WP Builds is the code. So maybe go and check it out. It's certainly worth looking at. Okay, that is that. Right. The other thing to mention is that, as I said a minute ago, Tim and I were both at the WordPress. I've got to be careful about the way I phrase this these days. WPLDN, a WordPress meetup for the WordPress community, if you like, something along those lines. We have them at the end of each month on a Thursday, and Tim was there for the last one. We're looking for some speakers to round out the year. And if you fancy, if you're in the London kind of area or you're willing to sort of travel in, it's a great event. Last year's was great. Tim basically was relegated into a corner to mark all of the quizzes. Thank you, Tim. I got a nice picture of you looking like a teacher with this stack of papers to mark. We gave an iPad away, which was really nice.
Who won it?
Yeah. Who did win it? Who was the winner? I can't remember now.
It was a chap from nimbusnowhosting.com.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it was nice. He was in the room. You have to be in the room if you want to actually walk away with it. So multiple dips would happen, but his name came out first. So, and we did a quiz and we did some silly awards as well. And it was all a bit of a laugh, but we're returning to the normal schedule of having two speakers. And so if you fancy, giving us your knowledge, this is the place to go. It's wpldn.uk/speak, wpldn.uk/speak. And we've got quite a few slots open and we would very much welcome your contributions.
In-person event. So
it's definitely you need to be kind of either willing to get to London somehow or obviously living in London already. Yeah. Okay, so there's the first bit. Now, as per Michelle's suggestion a few months ago, what we're doing now with this show is if the guests bring anything that they want to draw the attention of the audience to, we're doing those at the top of the show so that they actually happen as opposed to being forgotten about at the end. So here we go. The first few are going to be coming from the repository of Tim Nash. What's this one, Tim? I can see the title. Expiration notification service has ended. This is from Let's Encrypt. Tell us more.
So this is more a public service announcement than anything else. Let's Encrypt there's a reasonable chance that if you have a website and it's got a TLS or SSL certificate, that it's actually underneath being powered by Let's Encrypt. Most hosting companies these days use Let's Encrypt under the hood. But if you manage your own Let's Encrypt setup, you might have been regularly getting an email that says your certificate has been renewed, your certificate has failed, your certificate has been renewed. They've probably been coming into your inbox for years and you've probably been ignoring them. I guess the good news is they're not coming into your inbox anymore because they're turning off that service where they notify you when something's due to expire and when something has expired. It's worth just spending a second to say what scale this is at. Because this is like millions upon millions of certificates. And that means millions upon millions of emails. They've also had to hold that data. So they have all these email addresses. And so from Let's Encrypt's point of view, they're like, we don't need these email addresses. We can get rid of them. That's good. We don't want these email addresses. And we don't need to be clogging up everybody's inboxes. We're now in a place where it's such a robust system that actually we only care about failures anyway. So they are slowly sunsetting the whole experience. So if you rely on those emails for some reason, for example, if you've got a system which forwards that email on and it does something else, you just need to know about it. But otherwise, I thought it was mainly to highlight, wow, what an amazing job they do. So.
Do you remember when this kind of all rolled out? I don't remember the number of years. I'm going to say like 8 or 9 years or maybe a decade ago.
Keep going. Yeah,
really?
Decade plus.
Wow. And the whole faff that getting a certificate was, and getting the relevant pieces of that certificate and finding the place in, I don't know, a cPanel or something like that where it would go, and binding it to the different bits of your website which you wanted to encrypt, so maybe the cart page or something like that. It was a right old faff. And then this thing came along, and I remember the promise was you'll just click a button, and thinking, ooh, and how much will it cost? No, it won't cost anything. Oh, even better. And now everybody using it, and because everybody's using it, like you say, millions of unnecessary emails from their point of view, probably quite costly, I would have thought, to send all that.
Let's Encrypt is entirely supported through donations, and there are organizations who provide volunteer the infrastructure as well. So while it might not be a direct cost, it's just the sheer saving on infrastructure overall and to the environment. Because if you imagine how many emails they can just stop, that's an immediate saving for the environment as well. So it is a really good thing, and we don't need them.
Yeah.
I don't want another email. I'm happy. And if you
Yeah.
do want them, there are services that still do this, and you can still monitor. They still have their API endpoints. You can still actually just interrogate your own site and say, "Oi, when's my certificate going to expire?" So there's still plenty of ways for you to get that information. You just don't get it in an email anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of the uptime monitoring tools will provide you with this kind of stuff as out of the box. So if you are monitoring your website, there's probably a tick box somewhere to be notified about things like this. Okay, so that was really timely. Thank you very much for giving us that one. And then we move on to this one, which the headline. So this is a regular newspaper in the UK. It's not a tech journalist paper, and it's called The Guardian. And the headline is quite shocking. Maybe it's not as bad as that, but more than 25% of UK businesses hit by cyber attack in the last year, report finds. Why did you bring this to our attention, apart from that alone?
Well, I love that whenever something says more than 25%, which you take to mean, well, it's not 26%, is it? It's somewhere, some number between 25 and 26.
According to James Lau, it's 25.38%.
There we go.
He's got the precise data. That's good. Yeah, nice.
Sorry, James.
Yeah, the main reason for highlighting this is just to highlight that this covers a whole range of what loosely can be defined as cyber attacks, from not being able to have access to your banking because your bank has been having an issue, through to your site being compromised, through to, I don't know, your Bluetooth-enabled toilet roll dispenser not working because it's been hacked.
Done.
Yeah. It doesn't just include cyber as in online, as in your website, but it's still a shocking statistic. And it is I think more shocking is that within the article, it talks about how people are like, well, yeah, this is happening and we're scared about it. And what are you doing about it? Nothing.
Okay.
So I thought it was
great.
I thought it was a really good article just to give a little bit of a prod. This is one of those articles you accidentally leave on your screen when you screen share with one of your clients.
Okay.
So they just see it there. Just to give, or you probably can't just hand it straight to them, but if you just leave it lying around for them to see, that might give them a little bit of a nudge that actually you should probably do more than going, yeah, this is going to be a problem.
Can I ask you a question, right? And this is apropos of nothing. It's certainly not WordPress, but it is right in your wheelhouse. So Tim, obviously, as we didn't say in the bio at the beginning, his background is very much internet security, but WordPress is obviously the niche that he's in here. Like more or less everything these days is connected to a computer. My banking system is inextricably connected to computers. More or less all the transactions that I do involving money and all of that kind of thing. And it does periodically occur to me, like if some malicious actor, state level, let's go with that, decided that they really wanted to just take us out. Is that a credible threat? Or is that just such pie in the sky nonsense? Or does that kind of stuff concern you as well? And so I'm talking here about a blanket, and I'm going to use the word nuclear, which is obviously slightly different context, but do you know what I mean? Would it be possible to wipe out all the things in one hit?
So the way the internet works is meant in theory to be decentralized, but to me, whenever you decentralize something and you federate it and make it spread everything out, they still have to interact and talk to each other, and you end up with these like nexuses. So these points that become points of failure, and we have that in, for example, our DNS system. So how DNS works, we have points of failure there. And how domain names work. Things like ICANN and similar are single points of failure. We also have large swathes of infrastructure that have grouped together. So we see it all the time. If some AWS, Amazon Web Services, their East and West Coast data centers, if either one of those goes out, you know about it because half the internet seems to be offline.
Yeah.
If Cloudflare have an issue, you suddenly know about it. So it really is a case of you don't need to take out that much to destabilize an awful lot of things.
Yeah.
You only need to target 3 or 4 places. And you could do that pretty effectively if you were a state level actor. Ultimately, you could also just cut cables and cause.
Well, exactly. Cut the cable across the Atlantic or something. I guess what has occurred to me occasionally, more recently, was that a cat, Michelle? I hope it was a cat. There was a cat just sort of wandered into the picture there. The is our reliance on it really, and the fact that we now trust it. We regard it as completely immutable. It's almost like a human right. It's going to be there. It will never fail. So the little occurrences where it does fail are really shocking. But that whole idea of like systemic collapse where it all fails, like especially in this country, probably in the US, I'm sure is the case as well. Really, all the things have gone online. Just my subscription to the gym is online. My shopping is all done online. If I go and buy things in person, I'm still using a phone or something equivalent to pay with it. So it's the fact that all of it is connected kind of concerns me, and it feels like we've gone all in.
But isn't it actually even? I'm sure you're right, Nathan, but it's broader than that. I mean, when you think about it, it's the stoplights, it's the, it's all the safety infrastructure we have. It's everything. It isn't just the stuff that, you know what I mean? It's just,
I do.
Yeah. I mean, imagine taking out just all the safety infrastructure across the United States, or a large portion of it. Wow.
Yeah.
And this is Happy Time with Tim.
Tim,
you were just moaning about me not providing enough doom, and you're doing
the only week where your bio doesn't prophesy doom is the week where I bring it in space. Let's move on. There we go. 25% of all UK businesses have apparently been hit by a cyber attack. However, I felt like staying with The Guardian because they're obviously onto the doom treadmill at the moment. I just thought this was quite an interesting one, and again really illustrates how our stuff is all in the cloud to some extent. I won't parse the article particularly, but basically this article is saying internet users advised to change passwords after 16 billion logins exposed. We have no idea whether those 16 billion logins is one person registering to 16 billion sites, or if it's 16 billion people registering to, one site.
And I chose to read that as 16 bazillion.
Oh, okay. It's really big.
Really big.
But the point, I think what they're basically trying to say is we don't know how many of those passwords are overlapping from different services, but it really what they're saying is just be mindful of this. This stuff can leak. The repository came online for a little while, and then somebody was able to download it. It's a bit of scaremongering, really. I'm sure there's not enough detail.
Just to emphasize that 16 billion logins can't be from one single source.
No,
when someone says, "Oh, the vast majority of my site is bots," when you have more logins than people on the planet, it's probably a hint.
That's true. Anyway, be mindful out there. Somebody is definitely willing to steal your password if you can. So there's two things from The Guardian. Let's move on. Let's go to this one. This is very much WordPress, right? We're right into the... sorry. Michelle, what did you have? There was one that you wanted me to mention before we get
I just wanted to talk about the fact that we have so many fewer WordCamps happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just attended WordCamp Montclair. I saw Bud there with somebody else's name tag. I don't know who he was this weekend, but... He was able to join us for
because I crashed. That's why I crashed WordCamp Montclair.
Did you?
Did.
You just don't say it out loud.
They know I crashed it.
But there were some no shows. He just picked up a badge. It was
nice.
But it was my first WordCamp in North America for this year. And it was almost July, and in other years I might have been to 5 or 6 already, just within driving distance of where I live. And so the fact that it was the first one, it really speaks to the fact that, number one, we're doing fewer and fewer of those kinds of events since COVID. I think it's really been hard to come back here in North America. And I can only speak to North America because I know Spain and India are going like gangbusters with the events right now. Right. But here it's become more and more difficult, which means that if I want to attend them, it's a more expensive endeavor for me to do that, right? Because I'm independent right now and everything is coming out of my own pocket, unless a company wants to sponsor me to attend, which hopefully they will in the future. Otherwise, I'm just going to be watching everything online. But the fact that it's, there was almost 150 people there this weekend. I did get to speak. I did cry at my talk because I moved myself. Let's just say that. I was very happy tears about the work that underrepresented tech has been doing over the years and the people who've partnered with me.
Yeah.
But it's just, there are more events that are WordPress adjacent or WordPress tangential.
Yeah.
That isn't even, I spoke at Color Code earlier this year. I attended PressConf. Some conf is coming up. We have WordPress Accessibility Day, WP Accessibility Day online every year. So there's a lot of events that are happening, just not necessarily official WordCamps.
But Michelle, let's just face it. The WordCamp model in the United States is dead. I mean, we need to move on and reinvent what it is that we need when we get together. When we do stuff together.
I've just got a comment.
I think that depends, though.
I've got a comment on the screen. Sorry, just ever so quickly. Tammy is saying that the UK hasn't got one. Tim and I were saying before we hit record, it was roughly this time last year, so 12 months since the previous one. Right. And I wonder if the appetite is there. I wonder if the people that fell away were maybe some of the more crucial people. And what I mean by that is the people that were involved fell away during COVID, I mean. I wonder if they were in some way the people that were doing all of the difficult work of organizing and making them happen. And so when those crucial people went away, they just didn't exist. Maybe the appetite is there for attendees, but the organizers are not. I'm kind of with you in a way, Bod. I don't mean that it's a dead idea, but I do wonder if it's as popular as it once was.
And the other thing is the term WordCamp, right? I mean, right off the bat, every time I explain, I always have to say what that means. That is a marketing problem right there. It's a ridiculous thing I have to explain. WordCamps are WordPress events, but already you're behind the eight ball.
Yeah, but I think you have to do that for any tech camp, really. Any tech event. Like, I'm going to CloudFest. What's a CloudFest? Are you talking about the environment? No, we're talking about cloud hosting, right? So, I mean, any tech event you have to explain to non-tech people. But
but what's the purpose of a WordCamp? Is it just for techie people to get, or a broader range of people who use WordPress who don't know anything about camps?
Right, but that's still a tech person there. So it's still centered around technology.
We had this idea. Sorry.
I'm also agreeing, though, that we do have a marketing issue around it.
Yeah.
But because I think that what we've done, so we have the flagship events that have come into play more in the last 10 years, right? And prior to that, we also had just a lot more localized events. And then the localized events started to try to look like the flagship events. And that's wrong, because you can't run a 150-person camp and expect it to be like a flagship event, because we're not going to attract the casual users, the everyday users, the new users. We're only going to continue to attract the people who are, for lack of a better term, insiders to the whole thing. And so we have to be really careful about how we do that and how we encourage other people. I'm doing TikToks now for WordPress.org, and I had posted something on there and said Montclair, or somebody had seen something about one of the camps in Europe, and she said there used to be one in New York City. Was there ever going to be another one again? And I responded and said, WordCamp Montclair is this weekend. She went online. She found it. She registered 2 days before, and she came, and I met her face to face because we were able to reach people through TikTok. But how did she not know about it? She's a WordPresser. She's, all over the place, and she had not seen this. So what are we doing to make sure that we encourage people to see the fact that these events are happening? It's not enough to put it in the dashboard. People who are using WordPress on a regular basis don't read their dashboard when they log in. We log in for a purpose, to fix and to add and to do those things. So we're very seldom looking at that first screen that says, by the way, there's some events coming up in your area.
Bod, can I just say I've muted your microphone because we were getting quite a lot of feedback. I wonder if it's possible for you to chuck some headphones in the mix. Thank you. That would be great. We're getting, I think, just echoes of voices and things like that. So chuck them in and
I can hear myself back.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up when you've done that, and I'll see if it's all working.
I do agree that there's an issue with marketing.
We'll find out in a moment. It was kind of periodic. Sometimes it was worse than others, but anyway, let's assume that it's going to be working. Yeah. So There we are. Right. So that was what Michelle was going to bring to bear. This is, I don't know if this is related. It's certainly, there's some overlap, I guess. This is a piece on the make.wordpress.org website, and it's by Jonathan DeRosiers, published just a few days ago, 5 days ago, and it's called A Little Late Spring Cleaning. You may, if you're involved in the WordPress Slack, you may have woken up just the other day to sort of get a few notifications to say that things that you might have signed up to, channels that you might have subscribed to, were no more. And that was part of what we're talking about here. I'll just read quickly. Following up on the codified criteria for a repository to live under the WordPress organization on GitHub, a comprehensive audit of all repositories under both WordPress and bbPress GitHub organizations has been conducted. To support this effort, every repository was catalogued in a spreadsheet along with metadata to assess which met the established criteria. This includes factors such as ongoing maintenance, alignment with active WordPress.org team or initiative, and whether the repository serves a continuing purpose. And as a result of that, a bunch of repositories have been archived. I can't quite tell you how many. It looks to be about, I'm going to go for about 20, something like that. So, for example, it's block theme examples was one, contributor covenant was another one, Gutenberg's starter theme, matrix bots, and a bunch more. They were all archived, but it didn't quite stop there because that was obviously those. Then a bunch of plugins were closed. Similar idea. I won't bother reading it out, but ones that haven't been receiving some attention have been gotten rid of. Things like background image cropper, lazy loading, memory bump, and a few more. There's probably about 10 or 12 there, something like that. And as I mentioned, a bunch of channels, in fact, many channels were archived. I reckon there's about 30 odd, something. Oh, yeah, there it says there. 30 channels were archived, including things like, I don't know, Media Core, Council Ops, Core, Tiny MCE, Core Sitemaps, and a whole bunch of others. They've now gone. I don't know if the panel have any thoughts on that, but there it is. It has now happened. So there you go. Any thoughts, or shall we move on? Okay. In which case, a pruning of the WordPress stuff. Apropos of nothing really, except that Jonathan DeRosier wrote that piece. I thought, well, why not? I did a podcast episode with Jonathan and Joe Dolson, which got released this week. So that's the only overlap.
Can I just call you to Tammy's comment, I think is pertinent for
yeah, I think I missed that. Yeah. Okay, I'll just pop that up quickly. For context, they were all checked by Jonathan with teams, not just closed. It had a lot of diligence. Yeah, sorry, I maybe didn't draw on that too much. I mentioned what.
It's okay. Just wanted to make sure people heard that.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
So, yeah, Jonathan and Joe Dolson and I sat down at WordCamp Europe the other day, and we had a fine discussion about whether or not accessibility should become the domain of a canonical plugin, as opposed to something that would involve shipping in core. And if you don't know what a canonical plugin, probably you'll get more out of that conversation by listening to the first couple of minutes, because we explain what all of that is. But that was a really interesting conversation. And keeping that thread going, just for a teeny tiny bit of time. So that was Jonathan. There's 2 bits there. I just want to mention Joe a second time, because Joe has this, which is it's called Able Player. And he's recently taken custodianship. Is that even a word? He's taken custody of Able Player, which is a video player, media player, but primarily video player. But Joe's background is on accessibility. So the endeavor is to make this the most accessible player on the internet. He's taken it over, and he's doing a lot of updating. He's in that process where he wants to hear from people about what needs updating, but he has begun that process. And so I thought I'd just give that a quick shout. He's just shipped his first version, I think, 4.6.0. So it isn't directly a WordPress thing, but I like Joe, so I thought we'd quickly mention that. I don't suppose anybody has anything to add there. If they do, I will pause quickly. No? Okay. In which case, not that one. I want to go to this one. So we were speaking about whether things should be canonical plugins or in core. Felix Arntz, who is a Googler, he's been working with WordPress for many, many years, 10 years at least, contributing to core, presumably quite a lot more time before that. He is involved a lot with performance, with the performance team, things like that. And he's written a piece which I just thought was really nice. 10 lessons learned from 10 years contributing to WordPress core. It's on the felix-arntz.me blog, and I'll just quickly just go through what his top 10 items are. And the reason that this made it in was just because I just resonate with all of this so very much. Having spoken to Felix a few times, I really like him as an individual, but all of these things that he's written down kind of make me think, yeah, we didn't cover any of this when we spoke, but just really nice. So here's his top 10 tips to being a good person, I suppose, in the WordPress community, and contributing. So the first one was communicate and communicate well. I think we can understand what that means. Assume good intent. I think this is in the world of 2025. This one seems to be sorely lacking, not just in the WordPress space. Well, in fact, I think really the WordPress space is a pretty good example of doing this over and over again. But we do seem to be lacking this empathy. But I think that's lovely. Just assume that people are going to do the right thing, and then if it doesn't turn out, then you can draw different conclusions. Be persistent. And then he caveats that with as long as it's appropriate. So just basically keep going, which I think is lovely. Pay attention to the detail. I clearly am not a core committer. I won't even ever get close to that, but I imagine you are a core committer. This one is utterly crucial. Think at scale. I've never really encapsulated that one in my head. I just assume that these people, that's how they behave. But I guess you've got to have some sort of mind shift into not thinking about your own environment and the things that you're doing, thinking at scale. Increase scope gradually. Don't do it all at once. Find your niche. This, I guess, is the thing. Joe Dolson is the accessibility person, or one of many, but, that's his niche. Felix is performance. So, find your thing. Be helpful. Adapt well. And then finally, build personal relationships. And I think really he's left this one to the end, because he does go into it in quite a long way. And he's sort of basically saying, you do get a lot out of going to things like WordCamps, fostering personal relationships. That's where the real value comes. You just do everything via Slack, or you just do everything via Zoom calls or what have you, it's probably not going to be as effective. Anyway, I don't know if any of you have got anything to say about that, but it was a nice community piece, and I would commend anybody to read what Felix said there. So over to you if you want to add anything.
I'm meeting with him in about an hour, a little more than an hour, to interview him for one of my podcasts. So I'm excited to.
I think you will find him, a very, very, very thoughtful individual. Yeah, he's one of these people.
He's a delightful person.
He'll turn up to the podcast incredibly well prepared. I do sort of shared show notes, and Felix fills them out. Let's put it that way. There's much detail has gone into his head before he joined you on the mic. So anyway, there we go. Okay, so this honestly, I didn't know really anything about this, but this one kind of captured my attention. I don't know how much we want to dig into this one. This is over at the repository, and it's probably the longest piece that I've seen from Ray. So Ray Moray, who writes the repository. It's one of the longest pieces that I've seen come from the repository in a very, very long time. So there is far too much for us to say, but the headline kind of sums it up. WordCamp Asia 2026 handover sparks tensions between organizers and WordCamp Central. I'll try and summarize it. Essentially, the story goes a bit like this. In 2025, we obviously had WordCamp Asia in Manila. And then it was announced that at the end of that WordCamp, it's announced what the next one is. And it was announced that Mumbai in India was going to be the next one. So it turns out that behind the scenes, it might have been in Japan. It might not have been anywhere at all, because it seems like quite a few of the organizers were kind of feeling a little bit burnt out and a little bit sort of sidelined and marginalized. So there was even a suggestion that 2026 was just skipped altogether. Yeah. However, unseen hands, I think, got involved, and the sort of accusation, maybe that's the wrong word, maybe that's too strong a word. The accusation is that kind of Mumbai was just arbitrarily selected by somebody somewhere. And you can imagine the sort of disagreements that might come as a result of that. So there's a lot. There is an awful lot here. But it would appear that the WordCamp Asia whole enterprise is not the sort of smooth sailing ship that, certainly from my perspective, when I showed up it looked like. So there's a definite simmering of discontent and disagreement about the way things have been done and handled. And let's just hope that that event does carry on and that it's a success in Mumbai. I'm sure that you guys maybe you've read this one. I don't know, but if you didn't, do you have any thoughts on it, or even if you did?
So,
okay,
let's go with Tim. Let's go with Tim first. And then
I was going to sort of link this back to the previous piece with Michelle was talking about. In that, so I very much have come to the conclusion that the big events, WordCamp Europe, WordCamp Asia, WordCamp US, shouldn't exist or should be not WordCamps. I think almost the exact opposite to Bud. I think WordCamps are grassroots events organized by small volunteers who are passionate about something, and they should be allowed to do what the hell they like, organize how they like, and just be let loose to do what they need to do for their communities. These big events, they need large organizational teams. They need lots of money. They need there is a level of professionalism that is very different, and we lump this onto a bunch of volunteers who burn out, get stressed, and then hand over to somebody else to burn out and get stressed. And it makes no real sense. It's just we lose any gain you get from those 2 years of being a WordCamp lead is lost immediately the following year. We wipe the slate clean.
Absolutely.
They move from country to country, so there is very little of some of the playbook can be handed down. Quite often, especially for WordCamp Asia, I imagine they lose an awful lot of that playbook has to be thrown out and restarted because you're in a completely different country with a different set of cultural norms, different set of infrastructure, and a completely different team on the ground. So it doesn't make sense to try and use the old WordCamp model with these events. And we've got all these smaller WordCamps trying to emulate those, but their model doesn't work for them either. So I'd much rather see that we got rid of WordCamp, insert big name, give it a whole new name, turn it into a professional conference if you want to. But it doesn't seem, but it feels like we should just not have volunteers running those conferences.
Yeah.
Or if you have them as an advisory panel to dictate the direction, but not necessarily doing the hands-to-hands running. Of course, that does mean they need to be funded in some way. And whether that means that those big WordCamps have to have an increase in ticket price, bringing in more sponsors, I don't know how that works, but I feel like the immense amount of pressure. If someone told me, oh, I'm going to volunteer to do a WordCamp, one of these big WordCamps, I would probably, I have taken someone to one side and gone, are you sure that's what you want to do? And because it's not necessarily good for you to be doing that on top of a full-time job, on top of X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see and I've read through the article, and obviously there's lots of other stuff. There's lots of interpersonal stuff going on. There is, of course, the shadowy hand of unknown people fiddling with things, which. To move something forward that doesn't necessarily even need to have been moved forward. So I think reform is needed in some way with these bigger events. And I think if we can do that, we actually are then freeing up the smaller events to go back to what they should be, which is the grassroots community events.
Yeah.
Let WordCamps be that. Let these fly off and be monstrous conferences on their own.
Bob, did you want to say something? Oh, sorry, Michelle. I think Bob had something.
Well, this idea of organizer burnout is so true. I know it's probably stating the obvious, but COVID really killed a lot of this stuff because I was about to be, for the third time, speaker wrangler or whatever, an organizer at WordCamp New York, which was pretty successful. And then COVID and then sort of that, and this has happened to WordCamps everywhere, that cohesion, the talent, it just dissipated. And then there is burnout. I don't want to do this anymore, and I'm just too old for it, and let other people do it. But I don't have any really good way to segue into this, but look at WordCamp US this year. Does anybody have any ideas on how that can be rescued, for lack of a better word, given that we're so close now to it. Wow, it is.
When you
It's
rescue,
scary.
do you mean in terms of attendees? Because that was
Everything.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm talking about, and I'm not knocking the sponsors I mean the organizers, because they're all new. That's a whole nother issue. I know that they're getting advice from. I got but what can be done? Does anybody have an idea of what can be done to increase sponsorship, increase attendance? Everybody I'm talking to, a lot of people that normally go, they say, I don't know why I would go. I'm going, but I'm also questioning why I'm going. So it's just like,
Yeah.
it's depressing is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it. So Taco's just saying, basically, what the heck? Yeah, we're talking about WordCamps, and in particular the piece in the repository, which has described the sort of, I don't want to use the word chaos, but there seems to be a fair little bit of chaos around the event for 2026 and what have you. And prior to that, we were having a discussion about whether or not WordCamps themselves, maybe Tim was suggesting that the WordCamps ought to be sort of given a free rein, and the big WordCamps, the flagship events, kind of ought to be, I guess, more corporate, or just sort of more professional in inverted commas, where the staff all get paid, or you hire an agency in to just run the whole thing or something like that. Yeah, that's interesting. It's really, really interesting. I do not know what the answer is, in all honesty, but it would be a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea for the flagships to be professionally run.
But wouldn't you have to have a commensurate fee attached to it? Like going up from, I don't know, let's say $60 or something like that they are at the moment. I'm imagining you're more into the sort of $400-$500 level. So that might make the attendee just sort of shrink beyond all worth.
Yeah.
I don't know. Michelle, you wanted to crack in, I think.
Well, I was going to say that that yes, there's a WordPress issue as far as some of these camp attendance, but I think that we see this year a lot of people that normally would come from outside of the United States are not wanting to travel to the United States given our current political environment here.
That's part of it.
And you hear about people who are not brown people, because we know that internally it's a very much a minority, brown skin, darker skin person issue that we have here in the United States with our current administration. But people who are white people coming into the United States on vacation visas and things like that have been denied entry because of social media posts and things like that. So and it's not just I think I heard this kind of thing, as opposed to I know people who have been denied and whose vacations were completely thwarted because of this, and others who are canceling because they were worried about coming all the way here, spending all the money, and not being allowed entrance into the United States. And so I want to register that as well as part of the issue, right? It's not just a WordPress issue. It's absolutely a United States political issue right now.
It is. I read something I can't remember where. And so again, caveat emptor, I think it was probably from a social media platform. So I don't know the validity of it. Maybe you can confirm or deny it. Maybe you've seen the same thing. And it was, this piece was saying that in the future, if you do want to cross the border, the administration at the border of the US, you might have to have unlocked social media accounts. So you would have to be. So let's say, for example, your phone was opened up either by you or somebody got into your phone. The requirement then would also be able to access your social media account. So
it was different to that. It's that your social media account must be public, so that they can previously already have a look at it.
Great. Okay, so it's not a question of looking in the back end of your account and see. Right, it's more that you can't have a social media account that's private. Wouldn't you imagine that in that scenario, people will just go that little extra mile and just sort of delete everything prior to getting on the plane?
Well, imagine you having that conversation with a lovely agent, regardless of where it is in the world, and you're there going, "So, Twitter, I deleted that."
Right. Yeah.
Oh, why do you
Did
not
you?
believe
Why?
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Why? No, I did it years ago.
let's go to the
You-
Wayback Machine,
Internet
shall we,
lives
Mr.
forever.
Nash?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you can
right.
sort of see where that
Yeah.
conversation is going to go, which leaves you into it does lead into a really awkward position because somebody may well have deleted it for various reasons. And there are absolutely loads of reasons why the vast majority of private, let's say Twitter accounts, are private and should remain that way.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you don't want them public. And what do you do if you want to go on holiday? It's a really odd position.
Speaking of that, here's Paul Halfpenny says, I'm off to the US on vacation in 2 weeks and I would really like to get in. Yeah, no kidding. Be a bit of a blow, wouldn't it, getting to the US on holiday and sort of then just going home?
To be fair, I don't think it's a widespread issue. I think it's very much a case-by-case issue, and I don't think we're seeing it in droves. And I think there is some fear-mongering around it, but I think it's keeping ticket sales down right now.
So that's an added piece into the wrinkle of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So Tammy's just confirming what Tim said. This is a public thing. You have to have your account public, and okay, so there we go. And it apparently, I think that's already in fact. Okay, let's move on slightly, unless any of you three have something to add. But I'll just raise this on the screen. So this is Isotta. I'm going to say it wrong. Piera.
Isotta Pera.
There you go. You see, I got it wrong. So what Michelle just said, the incident response team. Yes, sorry, I'm so bad with names. The incident response team is looking for new members. So I don't know if there's some kind of overlap here between the story that we had a moment ago and what have you. If you read the repository story, there might be some indications that maybe there is a bit of an overlap if you read it from top to bottom. The incident response team, you may well not know about it. Again, I didn't know that this thing existed. We're expanding the incident response team, IRT, and are looking for new contributors. The mission of the IRT is to provide a clear channel for community members to report and address incidents that may violate the WordPress Community Code of Conduct, ensuring a safe and respectful environment for all participants. If you're committed to fostering a respectful community and have experience in community moderation, conflict resolution, DEIB practices, we'd love to hear from you. And there is a button right here which leads you to this form. And you obviously have to declare your WordPress username and things like that, where you are based. And there's a bunch of questions kind of drilling down to all of that. I didn't even know this team was a thing. Well, I don't know kind of
who do you think when you report a code of conduct violation, where does that go?
Yeah. Exactly. Now I know.
I just asked a very simplistic question. Why would anybody want to be involved in this? I mean,
I applied.
There you go. You got asked directly.
Michelle, let's have the answer. I don't know.
So I'm very much committed to a very fair and well working community where we have mutual respect for one another. I have not, to my knowledge, I've not broken any codes of conduct, but I've had people break a code of conduct against me. And I was on the receiving end of some fair negativity. And I didn't even report it, but others who were within earshot did. And so I was able to see what that looked like from the perspective of somebody who has been, I don't want to say victimized because it makes it sound like I was, beaten and left in an alley, but basically the recipient of the code of conduct violation. And so having seen what that looks like, having known what it feels like to be the person who has had some negative things said about them in a public forum, literally in-person public forum, makes me want to make sure that for others who experience the same thing, that there is a form of justice in that we are listening, we are conferring with the person who's been injured, and that we're working with people who break codes of conduct to understand how to work within the community. And if that means censoring them or putting some kind of a 1-year ban of attending events or speaking at events or whatever that looks like, I want to see those things happen so that we move forward in a much more positive way.
So they're the teeth that you have, is it? The teeth would be things like banning, I guess removing accounts, for example, from .org or Slack channels and things like that.
I mean, a very basic example is that I am a moderator on the photos channel for the photo directory. I have been so far the unlucky person who 2 times we've had pornography put into the directory. It gets held in moderation, and only those of us moderating from the United States and a very select few of us have access to that channel because of legalities. So I have been the person to see both female pornography and male pornography submitted into there. And I was able to get those accounts banned because that is absolutely a code of conduct violation.
Right.
I'm sure there weren't even really people who are working within our community, I think, but that's one example of bad behavior and a swift action to make sure that others aren't privy to those kinds of things. And might I say also, neither of them should have been very proud because they didn't really have much to offer in those photos. I'm just gonna say.
Well, now, I wasn't
I'll
going-
leave that there.
That's got to be the title of this episode. They didn't have much to offer in those photos. Bod, you carry on. I'm going to write that down.
Are you concerned? I knew that you were going to. But are you concerned of like retribution or recrimination or anything? Like Michelle, like you say something about somebody's code of conduct, and I'm like they retaliate against you or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying.
Oh yeah,
No.
yeah. I can.
So like
Aren't you
somebody
concerned?
reports it, I'm victimized. Somebody else
You
reports
report.
it. That
No,
person.
I have bad behavior. What a surprise!
Mhm,
And then you report it as a violation of code of conduct.
mhm.
And then I just like take after you. Michelle did this, and you know what I'm saying? Like
I don't think we've seen that. I don't think we've seen
You're
that.
not concerned about that kind of thing.
I am not concerned about that at all. If I am on the IRT and somebody has been a bad behavior, I think we've seen it a little bit. Like we know what Mika went through with when she was in charge of plugins and those kinds of things.
Right.
I think, and Tammy's saying that's incredibly rare. I agree that's incredibly rare. That's terrible when it happens. And I don't want to downplay it at all, of course. But it is incredibly rare, and I think that we have the ability to deal with those situations.
There's a few comments that have come from Tammy, and I'll just read them in order. So the first one is that is incredibly rare. I'm imagining that comment coincided with the photograph uploading.
I think so.
That
Yeah.
you were talking about. Yeah. And then Tammy goes on to say, "I've also been involved with this work, and it isn't at all normal for the highest level to be implemented. But you need the process. You also need to do a rotation in and out, to have breaks. Though, yeah, this is the sort of thing you hear about these content moderation farms for platforms like Facebook, where these people are just relentlessly exposed to this horrific stuff and don't get a break from it. And yeah, so there is that. Then just returning to the story from a moment ago, Taco Vidonshop, he's saying WordCamp US this year will be the first flagship WordPress event that he's not attending. He said it hurts, but it doesn't really make sense to travel right now. He's afraid. He says, I'm afraid. I guess he means I'm afraid about, not about the comment, not afraid of traveling. Maybe he means both. I've been on the IRT at various WP events, and I'm convinced it's a great way to make a positive impact on our community.
I have as well.
Yeah,
okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not for everyone. Not everyone in our community. This is Taco again. Not everyone in our community seems to be treated equally, which is why I'm hesitant to apply for the global role.
And that's one of the reasons I want to apply for the global role, so that perhaps I'll be able to have a positive impact on having people treated more equally. So maybe that's pie in the sky dreaming, and maybe Taco's laughing at me right now, and if he is, that's fine. But I live in my Pollyanna world that I think I can help make the world a better place.
Honestly, it's such a strange world we live in, isn't it? I just keep saying this over and over again, but if you rewind the clock just 30 years, this conversation would have seemed like something out of Star Trek. What do you mean moderating things?
To be fair, we wouldn't be having this conversation 30 years ago. You'd be a square, I would be a square, and there would be some MIDI noise happening.
Yeah, that's right.
On our dial-up lines.
That's right. Yeah, we'd have to meet in a pub somewhere, though. Yeah, but the fact that we're trying to run these global communities,
right?
We're trying to convince people to stick to a set of morals which we hope will bind to people's consciousness. The fact that we've got, almost trying to police things. And so, obviously you can't actually police things because you're not the police, sort of hoping that people will be moral. What I'm trying to say is it's so difficult to imagine all of the scenarios and the sort of justice that you might administer and all of that.
You don't want only automaticians. You don't want only people who work for Automatic to be on this. You want community members because we have a stake in the community. When I worked at the University of Rochester 30 years ago, so definitely before the internet was what it is today, I was on the IRT or the version of it for code of conduct violations, student to student, student to teacher, teacher to student, all of those things, peer to peer. And so that I would help evaluate when those, and I've had extensive training on what that looks like and how we help move a community forward when violations have happened. So I'm hoping that I can have, and I see that Taco says he's not laughing at me, really hopes I succeed in that. I hope that people like me help succeed in that too. So we'll see how it goes.
Also, just to emphasize sort of what Michelle just said, none of this is new.
No.
30 years ago, we were doing this in BB forums. We were at events. I was working things like at live music events. Back then, I was part of the same team that was just looking out for people and making sure people were safe. This is what it should be.
Our government, we have juries of our peers. I mean, all of that works for the same kind of reason, whether it's successful always or not, right?
Okay, so there we go. The incident response team is looking for new members. If you fancy that role and you can accommodate those proclivities, go and check it out. I will put it in the show notes, which will, of course, be published tomorrow morning.
Much love to Taco and his comments to me. So
yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Oh, has he put something else?
He'll be there if I need him for help.
Yeah.
Always.
Okay. So I'll be okay. Thank you. All right. Right. So Paul Halfpenny is I don't know, in the comments, and a couple of bits.
I might have given a heads up.
Oh, did you? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So in that case, if you've given him a heads up, we won't cover these two because he's going to get all big. He's going to get all big-headed. So first thing, the company Filter, which Paul heads up, has a new product in the marketplace. It's called Filter AI for WordPress. You can find it at filter.agency/filter-AI. Put a link in the show notes. And a brand new product, and I'll just quickly read the blurb. It brings the power of AI to WordPress, streamlining content and creation and enhancing your editorial workflows. I think probably the bit you want to see is this bit. What does it do? It's got settings. You've probably seen something similar elsewhere, but you've got the option to modify the kind of voice that you use. It's got Yoast SEO metadata. It will be able to create alt text for you, post titles, product descriptions. It has the capacity to, write, rewrite, and change the tone. Excerpts and tags, stop words. I don't even know what that is. Set stop words up at a global level to ensure that AI responses don't include specific words or phrases. Oh, like naughty words, that kind of thing. Or the competitor or something like that, I guess.
And then you can M dashes.
Yeah, or the M. Honestly, that's such a clue. Like nobody uses M dashes. Apparently, there's one person somewhere who uses M dashes. And it's a bit of a giveaway.
My trivia question on Friday was where is it? College kids are turning in papers with typos on purpose. Why? And it's to thwart the AI readers, right?
Oh,
we'll come to that in a minute. Actually, mistakes, yeah.
I'll raise that in a second. And then the last one on here is the choice of AI platform. So you can bring your own AI API key, if you like, as well. So congratulations for Filter for creating that. But also secondary, Personalized WP is also created by Filter. And this week they've announced that the Pro version is going to be free. I think we've got that right. Tim and I weren't 100% sure when we before we hit record, but I think judging from this that, well, it still looks like there's two versions, a Lite and a Pro. But it looks like the Pro. So maybe the Lite is now you've got to pay for it. just to be a bit different. Yeah, that's right. I'm guessing that basically everything is now free, but maybe they're keeping the Lite version separate.
Paul says correctamundo, but I'm not sure what of the correct.
Yeah, that's right. What the heck?
I think it's all free now.
So we think it's all free. Correctamundo. Yeah, I love it. Maybe that should be the title.
That should be the title of this.
Yeah,
episode,
the other one's quite weird, isn't it? Okay, correct.
You know that actually, personalized WP with a Z is free. The personalized with an S is
correctly spelled.
Correctly spelled one is charged appropriately.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, did he lose his British British card by spelling it with a Z.
That's
instead
right.
of an
Yeah.
S.
He says we've not done a very good job of explaining it. No, I think you have. Basically, I'm going to sell it like this: personalized WP, whatever version you had is now free. It looks like they're shipping all of the bits and pieces as free. So 2 bits out of filter. So thank you, Paul, to you and your team for doing all of that. Again, links in the show notes. Anybody want to add anything, or shall we move on?
Just I was going to say that it is a very good product, and I'm glad they made it free, because I felt really sorry for them, because it's one of those products that's like, it never felt like it had quite the right market when it was a paid for product, because there was like, well, if you have a dev team, you probably didn't need to build it, but if you didn't have a dev team, you probably couldn't make use of it. Whereas now, I think it will be used by a lot more people.
There you go. That's great. Thanks for the mention. You're absolutely welcome. That said, and then Taco says, that said, personalized WP Pro is pretty epic. Play with it if you haven't yet. I guess what you're saying is what Tim said. Yeah, nice.
Oh, and the very last comment, throwing some love Tim's way.
Thanks, Tim. Love you. Oh, he even says, I love you. Okay. Okay, there's some more here. Hold on. He says, Paul says, it will all be one product soon. We just want to make it free as soon. Okay, so it will just be personalized WP. Let's call it one. Personalized WP 1, just to make it more confusing.
We're going to fold it in together, like folded the cheese.
Light refers to the weight of your wallet after purchasing it, says Taco. I love stuff like that. Keep it coming. That's great. The more we have, the better. Thanks for the positive feedback. You're very welcome. The check, I hope, is in the mail, Paul. If not, there will be a rebuttal of everything I just said in next week's episode. Okay, let's move on. So we are back to Felix Arntz, the mighty Felix that we spoke about a moment ago, with his 10 things that he's learned from 10 years of contributions to Core. This time, a browser feature which is being leveraged in the near future by a WordPress website near you. It's called View Transitions, and View Transitions is the capacity to move from one place on a website to another place, but make it feel a bit more like, I don't know, an iOS or Android app. Let's go with that. So much more seamless. A perfect visual definition of that would be this, right? So this is Felix's site. He's installed his own plugin. And I apologize if you're listening to this. I'll try to describe it, but we're on the homepage of his website, and there is a small archive of 3 of his latest posts. And if we click on the button to view the post, what I'm expecting to happen is for the page to disappear and the new page to replace it. Whereas now that doesn't happen. So I don't know if the rendering of this video will work well enough for it to look as good as it actually does. But if I click on it, did you see that? Could you sort of take that in? The featured image from the little archive. Did you see that? It's sort of, so basically we've got this page refresh. So that is actually happening. The URL has changed, but it's managed to capture the image from the little archive, the loop, and then it's migrated it. It's sort of slowly transitioned it, moved it, expanded it up to where it would be the featured image of the post. And that's
Pretty
just
slick.
one example. Pretty slick, right?
Yeah. Bud,
unfortunately,
could you mute yourself? There's so much feedback coming through Bud speakers.
Yeah, Bud, would you mind muting yourself?
I didn't do anything.
No, you don't need to do anything. Whatever the heck it's doing it all by itself. But the idea really is that your website will become a much more fluid experience. However, Tim points out that he can't use it because, Tim?
Because I'm a grown-up and I use a proper browser.
I love it. This is not.
I'm bringing that up in my podcast with him in an hour.
Yeah, Tim is a grown-up. He uses Firefox, and so that begs the question. So this is not really a WordPress plugin in the sense of what we're used to. This is a WordPress plugin leveraging browser features, and in this case, a Chromium-based feature, right?
There's a range of browsers. I think actually it is available in Safari as well. So it is just Firefox that's lagging. But this is the problem with all of these sort of newer standards. It takes time for them to be deployed, and in the case of some browsers, it might never get deployed in there. So there may well be a case that I might never see pretty transitions except on your show. and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This doesn't impact people negatively, by not having it. It's not going to change doesn't change the experience dramatically. It's not going to affect anything other than you lose out on a little bit of prettiness. That's okay.
So it's the standard
it's like if your parallax doesn't work, it's okay. Like it's okay that it didn't roll over.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a progressive enhancement, as we might say. If you can't use it, nobody will be any the wiser. But if you can use it, it's quite nice.
And I do think there is a fallback, like JavaScript shim, that will allow it to work with things like Firefox. But obviously, adding that adds a lot of extra page weight that you might not want. So.
Can I ask you, I don't know if you're a devotee of like the MDN sort of documentation or anything like that, but is this a feature which do you think is quite likely to drop into Mozilla? Because I'm really hoping that we can all just forget about the browser wars and the feature compatibility, and that stuff like this, which feels like it's going to be leveraged all over the place, would be maybe adopted by Mozilla.
I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is one of those times where Google sort of pushed something they thought was cool forwards,
right?
And other people went, "Yeah, actually, that's quite cool. Let's go and implement that."
Yeah.
In which case, it's less likely to be adopted in the short term by Firefox than if it came through one of the more standardized ways for coming up with new features.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean to say it wouldn't.
Can I just ask a quick question about my noise level now? Because a cement mixer has started outside my open window. Can you hear it?
No.
No. Okay, that's great. There's all this technology going on inside the platform, which hopefully identifies, a consistent background or so. That's great. So anyway, here's Felix's article introducing the View Transitions plugin for WordPress. Bod, just to let you know, I have muted you because it was, for want of a better word, intolerably loud. So if you can figure that out, that would be great. And you can unmute yourself at any moment. So this is it. And he describes why he's built it and how you can leverage a different set of customization. So it doesn't have to just do this one thing. You can customize it with code and add theme support and things like that. But it looks like there's possibilities for sliding, swiping, wiping, whatever the difference is. I don't know the difference between a slide, a swipe, and a wipe, but I feel there's a good nursery rhyme in there somewhere. Don't know.
I remember them from my days using PowerPoint. They did different things, but I'm not exactly sure.
A slide feels to me as if the content moves, the whole content moves over. A wipe feels like one sort of moves over the top of it. But a swipe, I don't know what the heck a swipe is. I'm not sure. I don't know.
A swipe replaces.
Okay, I like it. A swipe replaces. Yeah,
a wipe just gets rid and brings.
A swipe replaces sounds like a Shakespeare play or something like that. Okay. Anyway, there you go. Thank you, Felix, for giving us that plugin. You can go and download it and play it to your heart's content. Let's move on quickly because we are kind of running out of time. Bod, like I said, if you can figure it out, please unmute yourself. That's great. One of the things which I think most people who are using the block editor have complained about if you're using full site editing is the problem of navigation. The defaults that you have are, let's go with basic. There's not a great deal you can do with the defaults. So it feels like at the minute there's quite a few plugins and things coming out to try and tackle that. Cadence, I know you can do your own menus with Cadence. I know that Generate Blocks have just dropped something like this. And here's another one. This is by Groundworks, or at least it's called Groundworks with an X, not a K. Navigation, and you can get early access for it. It does exactly what you'd expect. It takes the bog standard capacity of the navigation block and hopefully adds other things. For example, it adds what you might call, I don't know, let's go with an accordion, although it might be a details block or something like that. It also adds nesting, so you can do like UI and ULs, that kind of thing, or nesting without the icons. Anyway, just thought that it might improve your WordPress website if you are using full site editing. Anybody want to comment on that? Probably not.
X, that's not a UK thing, right? Like
what's that?
Spelling with an X, that's not a UK thing. Like with a Z or an S or a OUGH or OU in color.
Yeah. Well, you see, honestly, if you do step away from the motherland and go your own way with spelling. Actually, colors are much better. Color, it makes no sense to have a U in it. Color's much more sensible, but yeah. Anyway, let's not get into that. I have thoughts. Right.
We'll save that for another day.
Yeah. Tim, do you want to get into this? We're very short of time, so you'd have to summarize it quickly. RSC, Automated Hosting Test Runner Service.
Yeah. So you love having hosting companies and you really like it when WordPress works on them. To get that sort of level of compatibility, WordPress needs to test along amongst large quantities of hosting companies and lots of their interesting little setups that they decided that they were going to be so specific about because it was going to be amazing for them. And then it turns out that nothing will run on it. Well, this is a solution to basically help create that automated testing process. And it's really good and really cool and really useful. And it means that hosting companies will be able to feed back information back into to WordPress about whenever there's new releases and things.
I'm just going to make another comment, Bod. If you fiddle with papers in front of your microphone, it is stupendously loud. Or we kind of just got this sort of noise. Loads of that.
Dear podcast listeners, we're sorry.
yeah. Try keep your hands in the air. That's it. Yeah, there you go. So unfortunately I've had to mute you again. This feels like you're in the sin bin playing ice hockey or something like that. I do apologise. I don't wish to do that, but
Can we have visual countdown timers to show how long he's in the sin bin?
Yeah, that's right. You can come back in after 30 seconds. Okay.
Can I just say
I'm gonna come back. Yeah, right, go ahead. I just Nathan.
I like Sinbin better than Penalty Box. That's a really cool
one. I can't do your show. Every time I do this show, it's a disaster.
It's okay. We're totally happy with it.
No, I just have to hang my head in shame.
Honestly, don't worry. It's the question of muting you. That's the.
I know. But
what was the WordPress thing that we dealt with a moment ago? What was that thing called? It was the where's it called?
IRT.
The IRT. Yeah, I'm being the IRT.
Be reported.
Exactly. So anyway, that one was by Crixu, Crixu. It's on make.wordpress.org. It'll be in the show notes tomorrow. And as Tim said, it's the endeavor to make it so that your WordPress host just basically works. So that's fabulous. Nice. Right, we've got about 5 minutes left. What should we tackle? What have we got left? Do you want to do that security one, Tim, or can I just rifle through my pick of the weeks?
Just rifle through your pick of the week. That one looks way scarier than it sounds. There's nothing stealthy about it.
Yeah, I like the image as well. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so here's my pick of the weeks. I didn't know this existed, but here it is. So it's also coincidentally, it's an automatic product. It's a grammar checker, but it's called Harper. You can find it at writewithharper.com. I've not explored it because I've got an option already. You know, mine's not called Grammarly. It's called, I don't actually know what it's called. Pro Writing Aid is the one I use. And, but this appears to be a free version. It's got a GitHub repo. You've got a Chrome, Obsidian. I think quite a few people who watch this seem to be obsessed with Obsidian, VS Code plugin and what have you. And yeah, it does exactly what you'd expect. I honestly can't tell you how good it is, but I know that, you know, Grammarly can be very expensive, can't it? So maybe worth checking out. That's called Harper. The next one, which is, we were talking a minute ago about teachers, weren't we? This is the article that I brought up last week. It's on 404 Media. And it was all about, honestly, I feel like this is so demoralizing. If you're a regular teacher, you know, teaching kids in a school, and they're handing in work, and you've got this strong intuition that it's been written by an AI, and yet you are compelled by the job description to read it, and it takes you half an hour to mark it, and you know in the back of your mind that it took the child 4 seconds to press a button. That's a real worry, I think. Like a societal systemic worry that we've got to figure out ways to do this. Anyway, this article kind of encapsulates that whole thing, and it's called Teachers Are Not Okay. So definitely worth a read if you're into that kind of thing. Yeah.
10 years ago, we were saying you're not allowed to use Wikipedia. It's not, you know, you can't use that as a resource. Now we're like, well, Wikipedia is, because it's like, you know, community monitored, is so much better than any encyclopedia that you, for those of you who are really young, encyclopedias were books that we had on shelves. And now we're saying ChatGPT, blah, blah. I think that there's going to be a way to incorporate things going forward where we can use things to the best of our abilities without actually just not doing any of the research. And I think we're working towards that.
Yeah. I mean, certainly it's here, isn't it? It's here to stay. I don't suppose it's that, but that is all going to go back in the box. But it would seem fairly unjust for a teacher to spend half an hour marking a piece of work that no child ever had any contact with apart from clicking the print icon.
Agreed.
So anyway, there was that was kind of interesting. If you're into CSS, you'll have noticed that of late, over the last year or two, it has been moving ahead at a real clip. And every year the state of the CSS survey comes out, so I will link to this one in the show notes. It seems like a lot of the people on the CSS side of things are actually asking for it to slow down a bit. It would appear that many people are sort of getting lost and there's too much innovation. So, we'll see if that transpires. But yeah, there you go. And then a couple more. This one I thought was nice. It's called Pocket Cal. This is the ability for you to... It's an online service, but it's not a SaaS. You've got the ability to sort of like share with different people the kind of the timescale that you've got for setting up an event. And various people can come, and everything is contained in the URL. So if you save it and then send that URL, it will have bound your data to it, the dates that you can and can't do. You pass it on to somebody else, and then they do the same thing, and your dates and their dates get coalesced. And anyway, I just thought that was a nice online free tool. PNG is back, baby.
Where did it go?
Yeah, where did it go? Well, nowhere apparently, but the good old PNG, which everybody's been using for ages, has now, after 2 decades, is now being updated so that it comes into line with things more like, I don't know, WebP and Avis, and it's going to have all the different bits and pieces that, background gradients and blah, 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 all of that kind of stuff. So I thought that was interesting. And Michelle wanted me to mention this one, that MelaPress have got a security survey. They're offering, they're calling it the 2025 WordPress security survey. I will drop that into the show notes as well. It takes 10 minutes.
It's just I think another week and a half that's available to respond to.
You can fill it in.
Yeah,
please. Not least, they will give you, like, there is an actual prize, and the prize includes like some of their plugins, which are pretty good plugins, depending on if you need to use them. So, but it's also really useful. And people like me will take that information from the survey and we will insert it into talks and use it as selling features, etc. So it is really useful to get an actual understanding of what people's feelings are about the state of WordPress security.
The URL is not going to be something that I'm going to be able to read out. It's not that bad, but equally it's got some capitals and not capitals.
But you can just go to melapress.com/survey. It will redirect to that.
Oh, nice. Okay. melapress.com/survey. I will put this in the show notes, so you can just click a link in the email that comes out tomorrow. And lastly, this is why the internet was invented. Frankly, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, excluding my marriage and the birth of my children, but it comes pretty close.
I like the caveat.
Yeah, thank you. This is Wiki Radio, right? So the URL is monkeon, monkeon.co.uk/Wiki Radio. And I won't be able to demonstrate it because this platform doesn't consume my system audio. It will only, consume the audio from my microphone and so on. But basically, you'll press a button and it will pick a random file, a random audio file from Wikipedia, and just play it to you. Oh my God! Like it's so. I love like general knowledge and trivia and miscellany. And so you just click it, and most of the time you'll be like, I have no idea what this person's talking about because it's in a different language. Or then you'll just get some like Bolivian choir singing, followed by, like Clement Attlee talking from the 1900s. It's just brilliant.
It is
I lost like half a day to this, just playing it over and over again. So what I'm really saying is don't go to this URL, because if you're anything like me, you'll lose half a day. But
I can only imagine you in the days of Stumble Upon. Click.
But it was so good. That serendipity when something, and you just like, you click it, you don't like it, you click it, and then it's like, oh, what is that? And it was some random choir in Papua New Guinea doing some chant. Oh, it was absolutely wonderful. And then of course you can go.
Isn't there one where you can look out of other people's windows? Isn't that something too?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
I'll see if I can find that one.
Yeah, not sure.
But
it's
Nathan,
Let's confirm out of other people's windows.
yeah.
does this subtract from the time that you listen to those weather reports for
Oh,
seafaring
no.
vessels?
So
you know what
I went on to Bud's podcast, and Bud. We got into this whole thing. Tim, you maybe know about this. Do you ever listen to the shipping forecast?
I have listened to the shipping forecast.
Okay,
Oh
so
my God.
just so that you know, in the UK, we have this radio station called Radio 4, and every evening or morning at about 1 o'clock, it goes. It shuts down for the night. And just before they shut down, they play this music called Sailing By, which is beautiful, very tranquil. But also they read out the shipping forecast, which is a vestige from the advent of radio. And the intention is to give information in a really concise way so that fishermen out in the sea can have some indication of what's going to happen in the next 24 hours. But it is sublimely weird to listen to. It goes a bit like this. Shall I do a demo? Is that
Absolutely? Yes.
Okay, and then we'll finish. So it goes a bit like this. It goes Cromarty, 612, rising slowly. North at Zera, south at Zera. Then it might say something like, falling more slowly. And it just goes on like that for about 10 minutes. But it's so great. It's just such a part of my growing up. I couldn't sleep at night, so I put the radio on, and that would anyway, there we go. You are so British, even if you haven't listened. You are even British if you haven't listened to the shipping. No, Tammy, frankly, if you haven't, no, you're not. If you haven't listened to the shipping forecast. No.
Send me the URL.
I said it wasn't as good as the birth of my children. But I did say it was pretty close. And we got a fun fact. So here's some miscellany from Taco. Fun fact, this weekend I walked... What?
Oh, yes.
I walked 84 kilometres.
Oh, wow.
Is that real? Did you actually do that, Taco? This weekend I walked 84 kilometres whilst listening to Bud's podcast. Is that the limits that Bud's podcast has driven you to? What were you doing, Taco? I simply don't understand. I'm guessing it was some sort of sponsored event or something.
I did notice there was a binge listener to Seriously Bud in the last couple of days.
There you go. It was him.
Right.
Now
was it double sponsored? Was it sponsored both to listen to Bud and to do the walk?
Yeah,
which one was the sponsorship for?
Yeah, that's right. The thing is now, Taco, you can all you need is Wiki Radio. That's you're going to be your best friend going forward. You can listen to that for your 84 kilometers. No, he says. I didn't. It was a typo. It was 86. It's 86 kilometers. Oh, good grief. Okay, really? On that bombshell, I have nothing to eclipse that. We will knock it on the head. And he said, okay, one more. He says it was just a training weekend. Some people put you to shame, don't they? Yeah. I sat on a sofa.
My comment didn't come through, but window-swap, if anybody's interested in seeing those it's window-swap.com. You don't have to put it up now, but I just wanted to include it.
Maybe for another show, you can add that into the show notes. Yeah. Tim, were you going to say something before we
I have more questions now about what he's training for. Is he training for more Bud's podcast?
Yeah, it's a full-on Bud marathon that he's training. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Thank you so much to my three guests, my co-hosts over there, Michelle Frechette, also to Tim Nash, Doom speaker, he says, and also to Seriously Bud. Thank you for sticking with us. Seriously, Bob, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for those of you that joined us in the comments. We appreciate it. It really keeps the show sort of ticking along very nicely. We will be back in about a week's time, hopefully, for a different show with a different set of panelists. But thank you very much. Before we go, though, one last thing. We have to do the humiliating hand wave. And there we go. Oh, Michelle's poking through the eyes. There we go. I think we've got everybody. More or less. Yeah, that'll do. That's great. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week.
Is that a cow behind you now, Tim?
No, look, I
believe it's a pair of horses.
It's
okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 horses and about 8 alpacas.
And on that bombshell, we will leave you until next week. Take it easy. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.